Dice Tower Tonight, episode 55.
Spilling the beans about Essen Spiel.
Welcome to Dice Tower Tonight, a video cast about board games and card games, and especially the people who play them. On tonight's show, while I continue the global search for my luggage, we discuss the benefits of attending a convention in a different country. Also, I have just one challenge for Crystal and the chat. We talk about some recent play sessions, and we answer questions from the audience live. I'm Eric Summerer, and joining me now, the Sarah to my Littlefoot, Crystal Pisano.
I love this reference so much.
I found it.
Three horns are not supposed to play with long necks.
It has been a long time since I've seen that film.
I know that there were a whole lot of direct-to VHS sequels, which I've never seen, but the original Land Before Time VHS got a lot of viewings. We had a copy at my grandma's house when I was a kid, and every time my sister and I visited my grandma, we would watch that tape multiple times.
I hear you. Absolutely. So, how's it going?
It's going pretty good. I'm excited to hear all about your all's adventures over in Germany.
Yes, I have been back in the country for about 2 days now. My luggage, however, has not yet made it back to my home. The last time I saw it was in Dusseldorf. I had my flight out of Dusseldorf was delayed by like an hour. And so I got into Dublin, where my big transition happened, and realized I had like less than an hour to make my connecting flight. And then by the time the shuttle bus happened and I got off the plane and I actually got into the airport proper, I had more like 30 minutes before my plane left. Had to go through customs, run halfway across Creation in the Dublin airport. I made it onto my flight, but my bag apparently did not. And no one can tell me where it is. So that's fun.
Oh no. Yeah, that's not great at all. I hope it turns up.
Me too. There are a lot of Essen releases in there, as well as my razor.
I mean, well, the razor, clearly irreplaceable.
Yes. You can't buy those anymore. But
gone are the days of the shaven face. It's beards from now on.
Seriously, they're so out of fashion now. There are a lot of releases, some review copies, some that I paid money for that are in that suitcase. And when I was explaining it to the customer service agent at Aer Lingus, I was, can you explain the contents in as much detail as possible? I'm like, all right, so there's a new release called Sanctum in there from Czech Games Edition. And then there's Morn Quest from Backspindle Games. She's like, more, can you spell that, sir? Morn Quest? I'm like, you know what, never mind. It's called Morn Quest.
There's a whole bunch of horizontal, like rectangular cardboard boxes with pretty pictures.
It's a bunch of games.
And some words. Yeah.
and some laundry for padding. But
of course.
Fingers crossed that I will indeed have that in the next couple of days, that they find it in one of the many airports I traveled through. Because I do hear that they that sometimes bags just disappear, and I hope that isn't what happens. I'd like to eventually get my bag back.
Well, I'm sure everyone in the chat will be rooting for you, for sure.
And if anybody works for Aer Lingus baggage, I would love you to keep your eye out for that purple bag. I did, while I was in Germany, Crystal, run into a few viewers of this very program who made that made sure to mention that they enjoy watching. I don't know if they watch live, just due to the time zone difference, but they did say they enjoy watching the program. So if you did come up and say hello, thank you for doing so, and we certainly appreciate you tuning in. It was really cool to hear how much they enjoy the show.
That's wonderful to hear, and I so wish I could have been there with you all.
One of these days, we will get you out there, because it was...
It's going to happen. I've been saying this for the past, I think, 3 or 4 years. Like, I got to get to Essen next year. And I'm not making any promises for 2020, but obviously that's always on my list of wants. So maybe we'll be able to make it happen.
Yes, absolutely. So what have you been playing lately, Crystal? First off, how is your Betrayal Legacy campaign going? You were supposed to be done by Halloween, right?
Well, so our original goal was, to play all through October. We're not going to be done by Halloween, partially because I caught a pretty nasty stomach bug last week. If our episode had been scheduled for a week ago, it would not have happened. That's what was, and I don't wish what happened to me on anyone. But as a result, I'm not wanting to pass that on to my friends. We skipped our campaign last Saturday, or a week and a half ago. But this past Saturday, we did play again. So we've played a couple of more games. I believe we're 7 games into the campaign so far. No spoilers, chat. No, you don't have to plug your ears, anything like that. I will say that I am enjoying the campaign thoroughly at this point. I am also finding it really difficult to compare this legacy game to the ones that I've played previously. And the only other ones I've played are Pandemic Legacy Season 1 and Season 2. And those two were kind of easy to compare because they had a lot of obviously shared DNA. This game, like, I'm trying to, in my head, just compare the legacy aspects of them, and I'm still finding it difficult to do that. They were both based on existing games that I had played prior, so there's a lot of seeming similarities, but I'm not quite sure how I would rank them against one another at this point. Maybe once I get through the whole thing, I'll have a little bit more clarity. But I am enjoying it, and I do think for people who enjoy the base game of Betrayal at House on the Hill, based on my first 7 games of the campaign, I would say that you will definitely enjoy Betrayal Legacy, at least as of this point. That is what I would say.
Awesome. Good to hear.
Yeah. So you, having just come back from Germany, have probably played a few games recently, and I would love to hear about one of them.
Sure. So I did have a carry-on because of my weight limit. Not all of my games were in the lost luggage, so I did get a few home, and one of them is this new Haba release called Miyabi. It looks like Miyagi, actually, but it's Miyabi with a B.
Wax on,
exactly.
Wax off.
It is Haba, and this is part of their sort of older age range. I think it's the adventure line. It actually says Spielebend approved because this is the German version of the box, at least. So this is the same grouping that has Adventureland and Honga and there's another
Adoris,
one.
probably.
Yeah.
And there's another one that I have. There's a few of them, and they're honestly all of the ones that I've played so far are all great.
Yeah. So this is from Michael Kiesling, which is pretty cool. You are given a big old grid. You are making a Japanese garden, and you'll notice that there are the rows. Oh, I'm pointing the wrong side of the page here. You have different symbols along the rows, and then you have the columns. And these are where your lanterns will go. You're given a whole mess of lanterns. You got 6 of them. And you also, at the beginning of each round, draft or get a bunch of these tiles based on the color. The colors are the shape. So all of this particular wine color is this 3-square L shape, and then all of the greens are a straight 3, etc. You pull a certain number of those based on the number of players. And they all have one of those features, just like the ones that are on the left-hand side of the grid. And based on how big they are, they'll also have a number of symbols. So because this is a 3-square tile, it has 3 fish in the pond. If it was just a 1-square tile, which I don't actually have any in my hand right now, here we go. Here's a 2-square tile that has 2 of that particular feature. So on your turn, you're going to draft one of these from the center of the table and place it into your grid. But the key is that you have to take that feature. Oh, let me grab where are those poppies again? Here's the flower, and I have to line that up with the row that contains the flowers, but it can be anywhere along that row, and I can even rotate it if I want to, but the feature itself has to go in that row. And also, I have to, wherever that feature was, I mark off the column that it went in with my lantern, because I can only place in each column once in the round. The game plays over a certain number of rounds, but in one particular round, I can only use each column once. So at the most, I will be drafting 6 tiles into my garden. And I can build on top of the other tiles, which is actually the point, because you score points based on how many symbols are on the tile times the height that it's at. So it's got a little bit of a number 9 thing going on here. So if I get a 2 tile at level 3, that's worth 6 points. There are even bonuses for being the first one to place a particular feature at level 5. You get some bonuses. And this continues for 5 rounds, or 6 or 7. I think it's 4, 5, or 6 for 2, 3, or 4 players. And most points wins. There are also included in the box 5 mini expansions. They call them expansions, but some extra tiles you can add, some Zen tiles, some frog tiles, just different methods of scoring. Some very simple additions that just add additional scoring to the whole mess. Oh, there's also some area majority. If you have at the end of the game the most of a particular feature, you get bonus points. Second most also gets bonus points. And then some of those expansions add more scoring bonuses in there. It is a pretty straightforward majority point scoring game. And it's one of those that introduces a lot of concepts that appear in other games as well. I don't think there's a lot brand new happening in here, but it's presented very well. The tiles are chunky and they're fun to play with and build off of. And I played this with my kids. And for the first third of the game, they were understanding and making things happen and scoring, and we were all sort of in the mix. Unfortunately, they were, not really in the mood to play anything at this level. This is, despite the Haba on the box, this is a heavier game. This is, it requires a little more thought in what you draft. It requires some thought in what the other players are doing, because you're going for those majorities by the end of the game. And it is not a let's all, toss things in the air, or there's no dexterity element here. This doesn't necessarily follow the mold of a typical Haba release. This is definitely in the older category for Haba stuff. And I don't think the theme resonated with my 8-year-old. He just wasn't interested in making a garden. Part of that was his particular mood last night, but I think it's also not necessarily one he'll connect with in the future. My 11-year-old was more involved and was still engaged for the rest of the game. I enjoyed it. I think it's one that could see a lot of playtime with the rest of my family. But this particular play session, my kids were not quite into the groove of building a Japanese garden. But still an excellent production and a neat introduction to these tile laying, drafting, and area majority concepts in Miyabi from Haba.
So you would say probably the low end of the age range for this one would be maybe like preteen-ish?
Yeah, technically it is 8. It is 8 plus on the box. I think you'd need to... It depends on temperament in this particular case. I think maybe you have to have someone who's willing to focus on the game and the point-scoring elements of the game, as opposed to necessarily a fun, exciting theme, if that makes sense.
So if you have an 8-year-old who really likes the strategy of games, this is probably a good one. Whereas if your 8-year-old enjoys the silliness of games, this is not that.
I think that is a fair point, yeah.
And really, it's a testament to what Haba is doing as a company, because I think for a long time when people thought of Haba, they thought of the Yellow Box series, and Haba does children's games, especially games for young children, really well. But I think that they're really starting to branch out into more stuff that is geared towards older kids or just adults even. And I've found some of those titles really interesting. So I'm excited to see what they have coming down in the future as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's great to see them branching out on this stuff. It's, not just sticking with the classic Haba title. It's nice to see them extending their age range as well.
Absolutely. Well, especially because, yeah, if your kids like HABA games and they get older, it's nice to have something else from the same company that you already know and love that you can introduce them
Yeah.
to, too.
Oh, yeah.
Well, with all of these super hot games coming out of Essen, Eric, I wanted to talk about something that was very, very hot in 2015.
Of course. Sure.
Because
Sounds good.
that's the time of year to do that. For the record, I, for my month or my weekly game group, a couple of different times this month, I brought all games that were spooky or Halloween-esque themed. And one of the games that I brought and got to play, which I hadn't played in a little while, is Broom Service. So Broom Service was the Kinderspiel winner in 2015, and it definitely got a lot of buzz when that happened. But I kind of feel like it's fallen off. Like, I don't hear people talking about this game anymore, and it is delightful. So Broom Service is, I guess you could almost call it a pick up and deliver game to some degree.
There's some of that, yeah.
There's a neat mechanism where every player has a hand of cards, and all of the cards have a different character on them. They are witches and gatherers and druids. Oh, and there's a weather fairy as well. All of the players will choose 4 cards from their hand every round to decide which of these characters that they want to take the abilities of. And for instance, let's grab one of the witches. So the Prairie Witch, if you play her during the course of a round, she will allow you to fly over to an adjacent area and possibly deliver a magic potion. The reason there's a possibly attached to that is the players, when they play these cards, and I'll show you all what the board looks like real quick. I did grab that out. It's pretty cool looking. So when you play those cards, you have to choose whether you're going to be a brave witch or a cowardly witch.
Indeed.
And if you choose the brave action, all of the other players then have a chance to, if they chose that same card, play it as well. And if they choose to play it, well, so if they have it in their hand, they have to play it. And if they choose the brave action, you don't get to do anything. So the cowardly actions are always lesser. They don't allow you to do as much, but they're a guarantee. Whereas the brave actions will allow you to do more, but they are a risk. Because if any other player played that card and chooses to do it bravely, then you don't get to do anything. But sometimes players will choose the cowardly option because whoever played the last brave option has to play the next card. So if you do something bravely, it often will hinder your ability to do other things bravely. Mm-hmm. So you are literally creating potions, which are these cute little potion meeples, which I absolutely love. Sorry about the glare, trying to get that to focus. Picking up potions and then delivering them all over the map to earn victory points. There are storms that are on the map that you have to charm away with the weather fairy, and those can give you points as well. And then there are a bunch of other like kind of add-ons that you can start throwing into the game on top of everything else. There's little amulets that you can collect and other things. So there's some layers to this. Like after you've learned the base game, you can start adding in other elements to make it a little bit more complex or interesting. But honestly, this core mechanic of everybody picks 4 cards out of their hand, and you're trying to figure out what cards everyone else played. Because if you play that card first and you say brave and somebody else has it and you don't get to do anything, it can be very frustrating.
Yeah.
But generally the game moves quickly enough that even if you aren't getting to do all the actions you want, it's not so maddening. Honestly, though, this game is delightful. A lot of people talked about it 4 years ago, and more people should continue to talk about this game. I love Broom Service. I think it is wonderful. I have not played, I know there's a card game. So
yes.
Wait, hold up. So I know, well, so this game, there was a Witch's Brew card game that came first.
Yes.
Then this board game, and then Broom Service, the card game, came after. And I have not played, yeah, I believe that is the case. I think Broom Service, the card game, also exists, and it's not Witch's Brew.
I didn't know that Broom Service, the card game, existed. I was going to ask if you had played Witch's Brew. I haven't. I've played both of them once, and I think I prefer Broom Service. The mechanism in Witch's Brew, the mechanism you described, the brave action versus the cowardly action, is exactly how Witch's Brew works as well. But it's just, that's it, that there's the whole card play, and that's the whole game. Whereas Broom Service has the map element where you're moving around the board, and I enjoyed that better. It's a fun game. It's not one that I added to my collection. I'm not sure why. I think it's just, didn't quite reach that level where I was running out to get it. But that system is really interesting. That pressure luck and element and the timing of if I'm forced to play a card and I'm the one leading, it's rare that I'm going to get the brave action if I play this card. But it also, I think if you play cowardly, that doesn't force that card out of everybody else's hand, correct?
I think it does.
Does it? Okay.
I believe once a card is played, anyone who has it in their hand has to play it. I could be mistaken. I have gotten rules wrong in every game I've ever played in my whole life, so I will not. But I believe everybody has to play it, but they don't have to play it bravely. So in theory, if you lead with a cowardly action and everyone else chooses to do it cowardly as well, I believe then you will lead again because you were the last person to take a brave action from the prior round. But yeah, I did look it up, and Broom Service, the card game, did come out in 2016, a year later. So I love this game. I don't need a card game version of it, I don't think. So yeah, so that was Broom Service, published by Aaliyah and Ravensburger in 2015.
Alrighty.
Perfect for Halloween.
Yes. Well, I have a game to play, Crystal, but I'm ignoring the fact that it's perfect for Halloween.
Okay.
So I, having just returned from Germany and being in a little bit of a fog due to jet lag, I didn't want to go too complicated today. So we're going to go back to an old favorite. We're going to play just one.
Hooray!
So we're going to utilize the assistance of the chat. Once we start, I'm going to ask Crystal to hide her video screen and the chat as well, and I will show a word to the camera. Then chat, you get to give clues, a one-word clue. Please type in all caps, and I will take the first 6 clues and eliminate any duplicates. So you need to have a somewhat unique clue in order to get it to Crystal's ears. Then I'll read off what's left, and Crystal gets to guess what word we're trying to get her to guess. Now, Crystal, there is a theme to today's set of words. I have 8 of them. We're going to attempt to go for, let's say, 6 out of 8 would be a success. But the theme is words that we use in English that come from German.
Oh.
I know that you are a fan of entomology, and you...
Or etymology, maybe.
No, entomology. No, you're
bugs
right.
are not my favorite.
Etymology. You know what it is? I actually had an entomology. I had entomology show up in the book I'm reading, and it showed up several times, so I was always hitting that N really hard. So etymology, the study of word origins. So yes.
And I took 2 years of German in high school.
Oh, then you should be all set.
Honestly, I probably shouldn't have said that because that just will make any butchering of German words in the future more embarrassing for me. But I'm covering up a corner of my computer screen right now because now that we use Skype for this, I've realized that Skype does this thing where they have this little preview.
Yeah, the little corner.
I can't minimize, so now I've got a piece of paper.
You should see my screen. I've got like 4 crystals in different areas of the screen, and if I ever have to cover you up, I don't know how I'm going to do it. It's kaleidoscopic.
You cannot cover up Crystal.
You can't.
I am everywhere. I am in your computer.
Okay. Crystal, you have blocked your screen. Is that correct?
Yes, I have minimized my browser and covered up my Skype window.
All right, chat, here we go. This is word number 1 for Crystal. Word number 1 is on the screen now. And now becomes the slight pause while we wait for chat to start giving clues.
It's funny because through the paper, I can just see color. And so I can see the white, the thing that you held up is white.
Yes.
That's all I've got. So.
Well, that's good. At least you know the color of the, that has no bearing on the word that I provided. All right. So I have one of them. That'll be an interesting start. Okay. That's 2. No duplicates so far. Oh, there's our first duplicate. So there's number 3. That is not one word. 3. That's 4, 5, 6. Okay, here we go. We've got what we want. All right. Your words are Disney, Matilda, Tennessee, and Viennese. Two of them were eliminated. Disney, Matilda, Tennessee, and Viennese. Mm-hmm.
I am befuddled.
I don't blame you.
Okay, good.
I really wish you had gotten clue number 7. That might have helped. But you
sure
didn't.
Disney, Tennessee, Matilda, Viennese.
Viennese.
Like, no, I was going to say, is that the little sausages? No, that's Vienna sausages. Viennese.
I think it's related.
Yeah, I mean, probably. Disney and Matilda. Like Matilda the movie, I assume? Like Mara Wilson.
I don't
Danny
know.
Danny DeVito. Paul Rubens was in that movie.
Yeah.
Disney. Matilda.
Oh, that's another good one. That didn't come through either.
I'm gonna say mouse.
Mouse is not correct. If I had given you number 7, that would have been stroll.
Stroll. Disney, Matilda, Tennessee, Stroll, Viennese. I honestly have no idea.
Tchaikovsky, Christoph. The word was waltz.
Waltz.
Dance was the one that got eliminated, and that would have helped a lot.
Yeah, like I've heard of the Tennessee waltz, but like when I think of Tennessee, waltzing is not the thing that comes to mind. And Waltzing Matilda, it's a song.
Waltzing Matilda, that's what they meant. Yep.
Okay. See, and I know that's what's interesting is in my head, all of these references exist, but when you hear the words disconnected from one another, it's really hard to piece them together. It is very
difficult. So maybe this wasn't as simple as I made it out to be. All right, I am marking in chat that we're beginning clue number 2.
Okay.
And I'm showing it to the table now.
I like that you said table. It makes me think that all of our viewers are all sitting around one giant internet table hanging out together.
Somebody just pointed out, Waltz Disney. Waltz Disney? Huh?
Oh. Is that? No. Don't, chat. Don't do that. I'm never getting there. Like, there is probably... there are waltzes in lots of Disney movies, so that might have been...
That could also be true. All right, I've got 1 clue. I have 2 clues and duplicate. Number 3. Number 4. Number 5 and 6. Okay. You know what? I'm going to skip one of those because it's basically the same word. Okay. So, number 1 and 2 and 4 are all the same.
Okay.
So you get teacher, you get recess, and you get children.
I mean, what's funny is my knowledge of German, I feel like, is actually getting in my way right now because I do know some basic German words.
Yep.
Like earlier when I said mouse, I actually know that the German word for mouse is mouse, but it's spelled M-A-U-S. It's spelled differently.
Yeah.
The best I can do here, I think, is school.
Good guess. The clue that got eliminated was cop.
Cop, teacher, student, recess. Cop does not help. Everything else goes together so well.
It's not a tumor.
Kindergarten. And I even know that's a German word.
Kindergarten was the word.
Oh.
Okay, so now in order to win the game, you have to get them all right.
Well, that's clearly going to happen, so we're fine. It's totally good. I missed an Arnold movie reference, and I even know that kindergarten is German.
Okay. And those were the 2 easy words. So let's see how this goes.
It's going to go great.
Clue number 3. All right. I've shown it to the camera. I'm
It's
sure
funny.
we're just...
I'm enjoying watching you hold it up to the camera through my paper shield. Like I'm
good.
like he's doing a thing. I can tell.
It's our high-tech method. You've got a Post-it note over.
Literally. Here at the Dice Tower, we have nothing but the finest in corner screen covering technology.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah, so there's some folks are mentioning the first two were just warm-ups. You just had to get into the sync. It's like in the mind when everybody's putting their hand back in the center. We're just syncing up right now.
Yep, I'm going to raise my hand.
I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And unfortunately,
don't say...
4 and 5 are all the same. So,
okay,
we can got do this. Barbecue, meat, kielbasa. Kielbasa, meat, and barbecue.
So, this is not my official answer, but sausage is what comes to mind. But I don't think that's a German word. I'm trying to think if chat was trying to get me to a word that is meat, barbecue, kielbasa-esque, what it would be. It's so hard. I can't. Chat, you're doing a great job. I am just having a hard time.
Yep.
We are going to... I'm going to guess sausage. I can't come up with something better.
Sausage was the clue that was eliminated 3 times.
Okay. So if you said kielbasa, sausage, barbecue, bratwurst.
Bratwurst is correct. I'm going to give you a half point on bratwurst.
Okay. We'll take it.
Because we were supposed to eliminate sausage.
Yeah. But I said it, so whatever.
Yeah, sauerkraut was the next one down. That might have helped a little bit.
It's like, and I know that that's German too, but somehow my brain is just not making the jumps.
Okay, next one. We're going to get one of these. Now we're just aiming for getting one straight up. All right, clue 4. This one I think you should be able to get. I'm hoping that you get this one.
Chat, while you're coming up with your answers, I just want to say I love playing this game with you all. And I know I can't see your faces right now, but this game gives me so much joy, and I'm really happy that you all get into this and participate with us because it is so much fun for me.
You've got a lot of cheerleaders right now. You can do it, Crystal.
Oh, I can't see your chat, but I appreciate it.
Okay, we've got one. I'm hoping this one doesn't get eliminated because I really like this first clue. Oh my goodness, they all flew in at once. I can't count this fast. Okay, what happened? Okay, 1, 2. That's 2 words. So 3, 4, 5, 6. I think we're good.
Oh, okay.
All right, you get all 6 clues.
I can do this, chat. I promise.
Football. Sack. Dutch. Quick. Ballroom. Board game.
It is definitely Blitz.
Yes! It is Blitz!
If I had missed that one, I would literally take off the headphones and quit.
Thank you, chat. Oh, chat had the best clues.
If I can't get the name of my own podcast right.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
For the record, though, I would like to state, whatever, I'm glad it was a clue, but board game is 2 words, not 1, no matter whether you shove them together or not.
You know what? I'm taking it. They put them together. Oh my goodness.
As soon as somebody said ballroom, I was good.
Yes.
Because I love Sweet. Fun fact, when we parodied Ballroom Blitz for the podcast, I actually reached out to Sweet, the band from the 70s, and got their permission to parody their song.
All right, clue number 5. I'm showing to the camera right now. Oh, we're going to get this one. We're on a roll now. It's all downhill from here.
Yeah.
This will be great.
If anybody likes song parodies and hasn't heard our parody of Ballroom Blitz, go over to the Board Game Blitz YouTube channel and check it out because it is a lot of fun.
It is a good time.
You get to see the worst dancing in the world from yours truly.
Is it really the worst?
I mean, it's pretty bad. I am not a dancer at all. It's just me like wiggling around pretending to dance.
I've got one clue. That's a good one. I like this starting clue. I have two. I'm not getting that one. 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay. Looks like you're going to get all these.
Okay.
You get TV, which I'm going to count as one word. Knocking. Spectre. Haunt. Ghost. Static. Static. Ghost.
One more time for me, yeah.
Static. Ghost. Haunt. Spectre. Knocking. TV.
Haunted?
One of the clues was haunt.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, then that's clearly not the right word. uh,
Static, ghost, haunt, specter, knocking, TV.
so like TV and static both make me think of like horror movies like The Ring or Poltergeist. Poltergeist.
Poltergeist is right. You got there. You got
It was
there.
funny because the movie that came to mind first, for whatever reason, was The Shining, which has nothing to do with it. And then my brain went, no, that's not what you mean. You mean poltergeist. And then I realized that that's a German word. Oh, my goodness.
Could we say names, asks Halo in the chat. I think if it's a single word, you're okay. Carol
Yes.
Ann is hyphenated. I guess you're okay there. Okay.
I think hyphens are risky, but proper nouns are allowed per the normal rules of the game.
Yes. Someone
is
asked
nice.
why a particular clue didn't make it in. I think I may see the chat in a different order than the YouTube chat because I'm seeing it through Ecamm Live, and I think things come in a slightly different order sometimes. But anyway, yeah, it's the first 6 clues. So if movie was one of the clues that came through, and if that didn't come through in the proper order, then that's why that didn't make it in. Here comes clue number 6.
Oh yeah, here we go.
You can still discuss while they're all thinking though.
I don't watch a lot of horror movies, especially modern ones, because I can't handle jump scares at all, and it seems all modern horror movies have to put in a lot of jump scares. But I've seen a lot of the like older classic horror movies like Poltergeist. It's not one of my favorites. I think I prefer stuff like The Exorcist or Carrie when it comes to, or like The Shining when it comes to older horror movies. But I don't watch those very often because then I can't sleep.
Poltergeist was never one that really got me. I didn't really enjoy. Of course, I don't really enjoy many horror movies. I'll sometimes watch them once, just if it becomes a like a zeitgeist sort of thing. Speaking of German words.
Yep.
Let's see. I've got 1, 2, 3, except those are duplicates. 4, 5. I think I gotta kill those 2 as well. Oh no. So you're gonna get Achu and Health.
Gesundheit?
Yeah, that's it. That was enough.
Okay. Achu was enough. So I guess, let me guess, Sneeze got eliminated.
Sneeze was eliminated, yes. And the other one... The other one was Bless/Blessing.
Ah, okay.
Those both made it through. We also had Kleenex. Chow? See it? What? I don't get that. Sun. Achu. That was a second Achu. That would have been Illuminate.
Oh, okay. All right.
People are questioning whether these are words that English people actually know. Gesundheit works in English? This language is weird. Yes, we use Gesundheit.
We do use Gesundheit. And it all, I actually recently, there was an episode of the Ologies podcast on demons or demonology, the study of studying demons. And they were talking about how the origins of both Bless You and Gesundheit came from people thinking that when they sneezed, their soul would be like escape and demons would get it or something like that. And so that's why those blessings were basically like, no, keep it all inside. Don't let it escape kind of. Good blessing to you.
Another comment in the chat was that Achu should have been eliminated, but it was not one of the 6 words that I saw first. So if it was one of the later clues, then it's still in.
Gotcha.
Because many others did say Achu.
All right. Well, good job, chat.
Yeah. So clue 7 has been shown to the camera, and they're all thinking right now. I've got one clue. So I saved some of the trickier ones for last, but we seem to be on a roll right now, which is pretty good. Oh, 1 and 2 are eliminated. I've got number 3 in, number 4, okay, number 5, and number 7. I'm not going to count that one because that's not really one word. Okay. You get double, you get mimic, you get Vesuvian, and you get twin. Twin, Vesuvian, mimic, and double.
Doppelganger.
Doppelganger is right. You got it.
Yay! Good job, chat.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We're synced. Chat is doing the best possible job they can be doing. That's fantastic. You can get this last one. This one I know is going to be a challenge, but let me type in here, clue 8. But I think we can do this. You've only missed, if we give you your half point, you've only missed 2. So if you get this, I'm going to call it a win.
Okay. I mean, come on. I had to get 6 out of 8 to win. That seems, or no, I had to get 7 out of 8. How many did I?
6 out of 8 to win. And
that seems like a lot.
You're usually really good at this game, Crystal. This was not unheard of.
That's true.
Yeah. Double was a great clue for okay. Here we go. Clue number 8.
I think I'm finally kind of tuned into the Germanness of words in general. Start singing some Du Hast by Rammstein here. No, we'll get copyright strike if we, because obviously my version of Du Hast is going to sound exactly like the original version of Du Hast. My high school German teacher was Herr de Boer, so shout out to him. He is now retired.
All right, I got clue number 1. Some folks discussing whether ghost should have been allowed for poltergeist, but I was going to let it go because Geist is, German for ghost.
Yeah, which is technically, the whole, you can't use other languages, but
3,
it's,
4. We're all good with the first 4. We got 5. Interesting. And one more. Oh, come on. You've got to have one more, chat. There's got to be one more in there. And
you're gonna get a flood.
Okay, I got them. I got all 6. And you get them all. Here we go. Feeling, Oedipus, pleasure, pain, karma, and glee. Once again, you've got glee, karma, pain, pleasure, Oedipus, and feeling.
I feel like I'm being set up a little bit. Oh no. Like Oedipus is what's really trying to throw off my brain here. So it's something like feeling was in there, so it's something like emotion or
Yep.
But it's not, that's not German. Oh. So you're not, if it's not something exactly like emotion, because otherwise you would say things like happy, sad, whatever else. So what got 2 people to say both pleasure and pain?
Yep.
It's the same. Oh, I'm trying. My mind, it's wandering.
This one is tough. I agree, chat. Thank you. This one is straight difficult. Yes, I know.
Oedipus.
I wish I could give one clue, but it's actually two words.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I'm attempting to not have bad video dead air here, and I'm really trying to get this, but I'm really drawing a blank.
Yep.
German words. Schadenfreude? That's the best I can do, Eric.
Crystal, you got it.
Are you kidding me?
It is. It's Schadenfreude.
Oh my gosh. Thank you to the musical Avenue Q, without which I would not have any idea.
And that was the clue that I wish I could have given you, but it was two words.
No, because, yeah, it's the getting pleasure out of other people's misery. Oh.
So, yeah, I'm going to say 5.5 is a win.
Chat, I'm like giving you a fist bump right here. That was amazing.
Very well done. Wow. I'm amazed. Oh, yes.
And if you haven't heard the song Schadenfreude from Avenue Q, look that up as well, chat, because that's a great song.
Absolutely. Well done, chat, and well done, Crystal. Okay, I'm done. That was too stressful.
That was amazing.
Oh, so my goodness.
Let's. I'll give you a tiny break there for a second.
Sure.
And we will then give you not a break here in a second, because I do want to hear about your trip to Essen.
Sure.
I know we only have about 15 minutes left, but you and I kind of discussed before the show that, a lot of people talk about why Essen is an awesome convention in general. It's the largest in the world. The attendance is, I believe, over 150,000. I think they said the turnstiles this year were around 209,000.
Yeah.
Which is mind-blowing. But we kind of specifically wanted to take a slightly different angle on this and talk about what are the benefits of attending a convention outside of your home country. So that doesn't necessarily have to mean a gigantic convention, but just something that is located somewhere where you do not typically hang out.
Yes. So I had 2 points of interest, at least, that I have come to recognize.
Sorry if that was loud. I almost spilled my water, but everything is fine.
All is good. The first is getting to interact with different cultures, and coming together over our shared love of board gaming. The example at Essen that I love is some people like running through the halls blowing sheep horns, like trumpets in the halls before we open for the day, or just blaring karaoke when the hall closes for the day. People having
hold on, there's karaoke in the vendor hall?
The folks that run Clask, that make the Clask game, have a booth, and every time the hall shut down for the day, they would just start blaring music and singing. 4 hours, I do believe. I don't know who could join in, but they certainly were singing for a while. When I
go to Essen, I'm joining in. I will insert myself into this karaoke situation.
And you'll interacting with these European publishers. It's a very different just way of doing business and hanging out, and all these different languages being spoken. It's just fascinating that we all are playing games and talking about games and buying games and just having a grand party with all of these different cultures. And then the other point is going outside your usual sphere. Well, a lot of the big publishers, we talk about how it's not as necessary to go visit Essen as it used to be a few years ago. If you really wanted to get some of these new releases in any reasonable amount of time, you would have to either order from Germany or visit Essen to get these things, because some of these games would not be released in English for a good 6 months to a year sometimes. That's less of the case now with the larger publishers, who will often simultaneously release some of these things. Some of the Essen releases are going to be out this week here in the States. But there are plenty of smaller publishers that do not have that global reach and aren't necessarily going to be at a Gen Con or an Origins or your local convention or available on Cool Stuff Inc. They are smaller, local, European. I picked up a game called Pauper's Ladder from a UK publisher that I don't think is seeing worldwide distribution at this point. That I knew, part of the reason why I pulled the trigger on it, I wasn't totally sure. It seemed like an interesting theme. It's like paupers trying to do good deeds to elevate themselves in station. Like the more good deeds they do, the higher the rank they get. And I think if they complete 3 of them, they've won the game. That sounds kind of cool. It's got a distinctive art style. And I was willing to take a chance on it because I know I probably would not be able to get the game otherwise. So that's the kind of thing that you can interact with and get at a convention that's outside your sphere. And finding those gems and maybe taking a risk on something that you'd only be able to get there.
And I would say that it's not even just about necessarily taking a risk, but I think with some of the smaller publishers, especially ones that you don't get to interact with regularly, there is a really neat benefit to handing somebody money for a thing that they created. And I think that for me at least, amplifies based on how close to the product they are. Because I think with the larger publishers, if you go to Asmodee's booth, the person selling you the game box, where they work for Asmodee, but they might not be super close to the contents of that box. They didn't design it. They didn't, develop it. Whereas if you go to a smaller publisher, the person handing you that game might have been the game's designer or somebody who has been with that game from the very beginning. And honestly, that to me is where board games feel the most like a work of art. Yeah. And just getting to interact with the people who make these things. And obviously, again, there are publishers, there are designers and developers at a lot of the larger companies too who are there. But I'm like the smaller publishers, I think it's just it's a little bit more special and intimate, and there's a connection there. And I enjoy being able to hand people money for a thing that they personally created. I think that's a neat connection to make with another human being.
Well, I mean, going back to this Pauper's Ladder, it was a very small booth. The guy was sharing it with another gentleman who was selling RPG map books. So he had not even an entire booth. It was like a corner of a booth where he had set up his game. And when I marched over and said I'd like a copy of Pauper's Ladder, he was so happy and smiley. And I saw you earlier this week and I remember, thank you so much. And so it was just really cool to have that interaction. Whereas you're right, you go shopping in the Asmodee booth, they're booth workers. They're either employed or volunteers, but they're not necessarily the direct contact to the production of the game, and it's just a different feel when you get to you can do that at your local small convention too. It's just you're doing it with a different group of people at an international convention.
Absolutely, and that's kind of segues into another good point that connecting with the obscure games or smaller publishers from different parts of the world is great, but honestly, just the opportunity to connect with gamers from other parts of the world, I think is really neat too. I think the globalization of the world, especially via the internet, has brought us all closer together in ways that I think even 15 years ago, we probably couldn't have imagined. I mean, when I think back to when I was in college and Facebook came around, like before any of the other major social media networks had really come about, everything I knew involved the people that I had met and interacted with in my daily life for the most part. Like I had been in some like chat rooms and other things in the 90s, but I didn't feel as directly connected to people. It kind of felt a little bit more abstracted. And I think over the past 2 decades, as we've connected, the world has become a lot smaller. And I think there is still some magic to going to another place and meeting people from another culture. And especially when you have things in common, like board games, it kind of gives you that opportunity to forge almost instant friendships with people because you already know you have something in common. And so that awkward, ice-breaking conversation doesn't really ever have to happen because you already know that you love a thing that they love. And so you can kind of just start talking to them, and you can sit down and play a game with them. And if it's a language independent game, you can interact with them in a way that you normally never would be able to if you don't happen to speak the same language. And I think that that's something really magical about board games. And so obviously you could go to another country and play games with people and not attend a convention. Yeah. But I think conventions are going to make it easier to facilitate those types of interactions.
Yeah. And it is fascinating to watch the demo experience when you're dealing with so many people from different cultures and languages. A lot of demoers and booth workers at Essen, at least, will have a name tag that lists the languages they speak. And at the beginning of a demo, they will often ask, what language would you like this to be, conducted in, if they have the ability to do so. I could not do that if it was anything other than English, but there are many multilingual booth workers at Essen that if the entire table is, say, German, they can do it in German, and usually, if not that, it will default to English, so that multiple people can understand. It's sort of, English has become the lingua franca of the world, especially at Essen, and so it's often the default if it's not all German speakers at the table.
Which that seems so silly to me. I mean, I get it, but I think we as Americans kind of tend to sometimes think that we are the center of the universe, and we're not.
It's it's both convenient and also sort of I feel like embarrassed that is the way. It makes it too easy for us, I think, sometimes, that everybody else has to speak English. But it's also the common language. Almost everyone knows English and their own. And so just because English happens to be the language that everybody knows, it makes it so much easier for us to communicate. It's both convenient and sort of embarrassing. Yeah,
I really, truly wish that the American education system helped teach us multiple languages when we were young. My 2 years of high school German would probably not serve me very well at Essenspiel. I visited Austria in 2005 and ordered some food in German, thinking, I'm going to try and do the right thing here. And the guy at the booth was very kind, smiling at me as I was kind of stumbling over the words. And then when I finished, he paused for a moment, and then in perfect English, he said, "You did such a good job." And my 20-year-old self was very embarrassed, and he wasn't being cruel at all. He was very kind. He was just like, no, really, you did a good job.
Yeah.
I was like, well, thanks. Can I have my waffle with strawberries? My Waffel mit Erdbeeren now, please?
It's true. I mean, you try so hard to stay in that mode and order in German. And I had a couple of interactions like that. And it's like, please let me try and make this happen. And it's often easier when things get complicated. If everything goes according to textbook, you can have the communication and figure out what you owe them and get your change and everything, and it works. But if everything goes wrong and they have to ask a clarifying question, like at it was a convenience store, I was trying to buy a couple of bottles of soda or something, and and they asked me if I had my loyalty card or something along that line, like they would at a supermarket. And I'm just like,
You're just like, money, soda, money, soda.
And so you feel so bad. I felt like my greatest triumph when I was in Japan was that I actually asked a question about how to get from one city to another via the subway, and was able to ask the question in Japanese, understand the answer in Japanese, and finish the interaction without resorting to English. That was the coolest thing. And it's all gone now. But I did it once, and that's what's important.
It's definitely a matter of respect and being polite. And if you are in a country where English is not the primary language, I think making an effort is important.
Yeah, it's true.
So that's really, that's the least you can expect from people. But yeah, I think playing board games in another country, whether that's at a convention or otherwise, can be a really eye-opening experience for people. And I think it can help give you a little bit more perspective on the gaming hobby as a whole, and see how people from different cultures can be very much like you in a way that, we all enjoy fun and games, and sometimes just sitting around a table moving pieces of cardboard is a great way to connect.
Yeah, somebody asking, did I study Japanese? I took 4 years in college, which, that was a lot. And at one point I was doing okay. I didn't read very quickly because that's very difficult. But I could have small conversations. That's about as far as I could go. But that was many years ago. So, yeah.
It's starting. Yeah, when I'm like me talking about college now, I'm like, oh, that was longer ago than I like to admit at this point.
Well, like my son actually just today was like, Dad, can you read Japanese? I'm like, well, maybe a little bit. Like I can read the occasional hiragana, basically sounding it out and figuring out what English word it's supposed to be. And he hands me a Japanese Pokemon card, and he's like, what does this do? And I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't.
Yeah, that's not in the first few lessons of normal Japanese's Pokemon ability.
This is beyond my understanding. I know that's Articuno and Zapdos, and that's about it. Here, I'm sorry. It does 40 damage, and that's it.
All right. Well, chat, if you all have any questions for us about Eric's experience in Essen or anything related to board games, board game conventions, we will stick around here for another few minutes if you all have anything that you'd like to ask us. And then what do we have coming up here in a couple of weeks? I don't think anything special going on in the near future for us on this show.
Yeah, we'll be back in 2 weeks. I will be fresh off a trip to Disney. I'm taking the family. Like I just got back from Essen, and now we're off to go to see the mouse and Universal as well. We'll go to Harry Potter Land. So I'm excited.
Very nice. I'm curious about the new roller coaster. Only because somebody said, don't let anyone spoil it for you.
Yeah, it's a roller coaster with spoilers, which I think I may have already heard too much about, but I'm sure I'll have a blast.
Yeah, very fun.
Someone asked, let's see, Rick wants to know, so since Euros have a following here in America, are there some popular Amerithrash games in Germany? I don't know if there's a specific title, but there were plenty of what you'd call Amerithrash style games being sold. A lot of U.S.-based publishers make it there as well because they know there's a market. Some of the stuff that, some of these heavy Kickstarters that cost a tremendous amount to ship, if they come over to the European convention, people can buy them there without the giant shipping costs. And so there is certainly a market for those, some older titles. There's a lot of used dealers at Essen, and you can get some older, especially German titles, but also older American titles. There were several booths, Crystal, that had Star Trek, like keepsake ornaments and action figures, and just a lot of old collectibles. That even if you weren't interested in the games, there's a whole bunch of stuff to explore from those booths too.
I just want to go. I want to go. I want to be there. It's going to be wonderful someday.
Do you know if the Quinid Games versions of Circle the Wagons and Sprawlopolis that were released at Essen, will they be available here in the States?
If I remember correctly, I think Buttonshy tweeted about this and said no, at least.
Okay.
I think. I could be mistaken about that, but I think that is just a European release of those games, but I'm not certain.
I did get a look at these. I was expecting them. I know it's a small game to begin with, but the Quinid Games box, it's also quite small. I was thinking, they made a big version of it, but it's not. It's like the size of an Amigo release, basically, or an Oink Games release. It's pretty small.
Yeah, I think since Buttonshy is still distributing copies of those games in their Wallet series here in the States, I don't think there's going to be the boxed releases. Although I guess, like anything else, I imagine if enough people were shouting about it, then there's, anything is possible. But I think if you search through Button Shy's Twitter, I want to say they tweeted about it at some point. Okay. It was a while ago, though.
Kabuki's asking if swastikas are still banned in Germany for board games. I know there have been instances where that has been on the art of, say, a war game, and it's been banned, or they've had to put stickers over it on the box. I have not heard of that regulation changing, but I also don't know specifically like how formal a rule it is. I do know that some games got held up in customs this year because they didn't have the proper like VAT codes on them. There's a lot of bureaucracy when you want to sell a game in Germany, and that was one of the reasons why things got held up. There were also a couple of robberies in Essen this year, and there seem to be every year. There are teams of thieves that basically target this convention. And because cash is so prevalent at Spiel, it's easy, or not easy, but easier to take a significant portion of the money by stealing a cash box. That has something to do with the bureaucracy too, as far as banking rules. It's harder for a country or a company based outside Germany to do business in Germany using credit cards. You have to have like a foothold in a German bank and an account, and so it's a whole thing, which is why cards are a lot harder to use at the booths at Essen, which means a lot more cash, and you have to be very, very careful about who is in front of that cash box and not letting them leave, and designing of booths so that unauthorized personnel can't get into the booth. In fact, the Dice Tower booth even, we had set up some barriers so that a few people could come in to one section of the booth and take pictures, but no one entered the part that had any money from the promos we were selling, to prevent that very thing.
Yeah, it is definitely a bummer that continues to be a problem. And I've seen a lot of people tweeting at the Essen Spiel committee, people to try and address it. But I think, and I obviously have no idea what level of security they do or do not have in regard to that specific problem. But I think, it's important at this point for people to be diligent, and that's not just for the publishers. That's if you're attending Spiel and have a lot of cash on you. If you're traveling anywhere foreign,
yeah.
Get one of those things that puts the cash, like strap it to your body underneath your clothes.
I had one of those on for most of the convention. If anybody like gave me a hug or something, or like, what is that? I had the money belt on. Just to keep it out of sight. I don't think it's as much like pickpockets and stuff. This is like they're going for the big payout of a cash box and scoping a booth and distracting the worker and making a move. It's a whole team of people doing it. It's hard to guard against.
I wonder if there would be any benefit to booths having their own like kind of security cameras, like just like a phone recording near their cash box or something like that. But
yeah, I know some booths actually hired separate security or hired it from the Messe, security personnel to stand right next to the booth.
Let's see. I know I saw another question on here that I wanted to... Oh, Jerry asked if you're going to Galaxy's Edge while you're down at Disney.
That is the plan. They are not yet accepting Fast Pass reservations, so I'm going to have to get in line with everybody else. And if you've been paying attention, this week is the last week that they are having what they call the extra magic hours, where they've been opening the park at 6 a.m. They stop that the week we get there. And so we're going to be back to normal hours and hoping to get in. So I'm worried that the crowds are going to be, again, like intensified because those extra hours aren't there. We'll see. I don't
know. I feel like you're going at a good time, though, because it's before the holidays start in earnest. So
it is. I learned after we booked the trip that there is something called Jersey Week. Apparently, the entire state of New Jersey has next week off of school, and many of them go to Disney. I still think it's only one state as opposed to the entire United States having like spring break off. So it still shouldn't be as bad. I was there for spring break one year, and it was not fun. So it's got to be better than that. My son, however, hates Star Wars, and so he has threatened to just like wander off when we go to Galaxy's Edge. I don't think he's actually going to go through with it, but he will be grumpy when we visit the area.
I had some similar, like I remember specifically disliking things that my parents liked when I was a kid, and I think in some instances it was just to be contrarian. Like, honestly, it wasn't even a matter of me disliking the thing. But so maybe eventually he'll come around. I mean, if he gets to build his own droid or lightsaber or something like that, maybe that would help. But I think those are pretty expensive. So
they are. Yeah, I think we might be doing the magic wand at Universal. So
there you go.
I'm hopefully going to prevent getting a droid as well.
Well, as somebody who was picked by a wand at Ollivanders in Florida, I can say that experience is a lot of fun, and I was fully like a child when it happened. So,
switching to a different subject, have I ever done any voice work for fantasy novels? If so, do I think there were any that were particularly good? Yep. I've done a couple of Dungeons & Dragons. I did one D&D series in the Forgotten Realms universe. The series is called Songs and Swords. It's by Elaine Cunningham. I did a few Pathfinder tales. And I also did a series called Benjamin Ashwood, which I like a lot, which is sort of swords and sorcery with really good characters, lots of campfire moments, and good scenes with all these people. So those are my favorites if you're looking for that genre.
Very cool. Sorrow Song also asked if I ever got my coworkers to try point salad. So I think they're referencing something that I mentioned in my Q&A on Sunday. And I have not had any opportunities to play board games with coworkers since then. So at some point in the future, point salad may come back, but I don't play board games with my coworkers that often. The instance here a couple weeks ago was actually the first time in quite a while. So it's definitely on the list of things that I'll probably bring again, but it's not something that'll happen in the near future, I don't think. And we are almost 15 minutes past our usual time.
We just like chatting.
Before we go, chat, if you could do me one tiny favor, just one, like the game we played earlier, just one favor. Just click that little thumbs up button below the video for me if you haven't already. I really appreciate it. It helps with the YouTube algorithms. And also, before you leave, drop in the chat what you are dressing up as for Halloween, because I love Halloween costumes and I want to know what you all are going to be, or tell me what your kids are dressing up as too, because kids, it's funny, I don't have any children, but kids in Halloween costumes, one of my favorite things in the whole world. In fact, I don't get trick-or-treaters at my house almost at all for whatever reason. We're kind of in a cul-de-sac, so I think we just get skipped over. But I am going over to a friend's house so I can hopefully see children in cute costumes and hand out some candy. So I'm really excited about that. Eric, what are you all doing for Halloween?
Well, I mean, I'll probably be putting on my my Kigurumi dinosaur outfit and escorting at least the small one around to trick or treat. I'm not sure if the older one is going to want to ditch us yet. But maybe he'll be with us as well. I honestly don't know what the kids are dressing up as. I think I will have a Gryffindor student, possibly two. But I really don't know if they've decided what they want to do yet. It may be a last-minute decision going through the old costumes.
Okay, well, that's really neat. All right, well, chat, thank you for joining us again. We always appreciate you all coming and participating in the game and asking us questions. Dice Tower Tonight is a live show every 2 weeks on Wednesday evenings starting at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. So please come back and join us again on November 13th. Woo. Middle of November is soon. Holy moly. And until next time, I'm Crystal Pisano.
I'm Eric Summerer.
And you've been watching Dice Tower Tonight.
Thank you for watching. Promotional consideration has been provided by game publishers in the form of review copies of games. Crystal and I will see you in 2 weeks for another installment. Our show is supported by viewers like you. Thanks. Dice Tower Tonight is produced by Crystal and me with assistance from Tom Vassell, Chris Barr, Roy Kennedy, and Rob Searing. Ma Milk is provided by Macau. Timothy Pinkham composed our theme, and hosting is provided by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games at great prices at coolstuffinc.com. Give us your feedback on the Dice Tower Guild at Board Game Geek on Facebook or Twitter, or by emailing us at dicetower@gmail.com. And don't forget to visit the other shows in the Dice Tower Network. Find something new at dicetowernetwork.com. Until next time, from all of us at the Dice Tower, have fun gaming.
Gaming! That is my favorite. And of all of the puns you've ever done.
I can't take credit for that one. It came from the thread on Board Game Geek. If you want to submit one, that's where you do it, and it was fantastic.
That is the best.